from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Tuesday, March 14th. So we have the moon in Sagittarius again here all day. We are building towards the last quarter moon that we will be having in Sagittarius at 24 degrees. That will be taking place a little bit later on in the day. So of course we have this energy building, this intensity building. Keep in mind that the last quarter moon is a time where we really crave action. We want to jump into something new. We want to make a move. We want to kind of, set the tone in our new goals, our new dreams, our new visions, our new pursuits. However, it's not the time to do that, especially if you want a good outcome to this significant project or event that you actually want to manifest. Why is that? Because, of course, the moon and the moonlight is an indicator on whether or not we should be growing into something or letting go of something. Being the last quarter moon, the light, the illumination, the shininess of the moon is minimizing because, of course, we are approaching the new moon in Aries that will be taking place on the 21st. So we have this urgency, we have this restlessness, we have I'm going to say this fire energy from Sag burning within us. We want to explore, we want to take action, we want to make moves. However, not the time to do that. What it is time to do is to boss up, to take that observatory role, if you will, to tap into our higher self and look back on where it is that we're coming from, what it is that we need to bring to an end, what it is that we need to bring to a close, really seeing the layers of the spiritual lessons that are definitely pushing us into our soul's evolvement. And this is a time where we have aha moments, where we put the pieces together, where we shift our perspective, and where we are aligning with a new truth, a new mission, a new purpose. So we already have that energy kind of destabilizing us because, of course, the urgency is to make a move, is to take action, but we're not supposed to. And we have a lot of energy here today, 13 different aspects. 12 of those aspects involve the moon. So we're definitely in for an emotional roller coaster, if you will. And the one aspect that we have that doesn't involve the moon is between Mars and Neptune, which is a pretty significant event that I will go into detail about when we actually get there. So the moon interacts with Venus in not the nicest way. Venus, of course, in Aries energy. She is kind of preparing to wrap up her time in this Aries energy. And she is really starting to get down to the nitty gritty on what needs to stay, what needs to go in order for her to feel safe and secure, for her to feel stable in her life, for her to boss up to new levels of self-worth, self-confidence, really figuring out what it is that she wants to build and create from here. When the moon goes ahead and trines, which is a beautiful energy with Chiron, that wounded healer, if you will, this is where the aha moments start rolling in, where the epiphanies, the revelations, the puzzle pieces start clicking, especially with the wounds that we have been attempting to heal. And of course, we're still very much in this Jupiter Chiron aspect that we had. That was a huge wave of healing and transformation. And so we are putting the pieces together on where it is that we are growing, what it is that we do have to celebrate, where it is that we are evolving, and really kind of shifting the version of who it is that we now are due to the wounds that we are essentially healing. The moon semi-squares, which is a little bit of a tension point with Pluto, the great transformer himself. And let me just say that this is a little bit of an uncomfortable energy because we are essentially seeing where it is that we kind of have to unearth some of those shadow realm elements, take a good look at our past experiences, the pain, the trauma, the suffering that we would have accumulated, and attempt to have an aha moment, a revelation, an epiphany, if you will, on where it is that those events were divinely scripted by our higher selves to push us into our soul's potential. The moon goes ahead, trines, which is another beautiful energy, with Jupiter, who is in Aries energy. So Jupiter rules over Sag energy. This is an interaction with the ruler of the energy that the moon is currently in. And let me just say that this is an overwhelming, over-exaggerated, over-inflated amount of confidence and optimism. Now, that might not sound like a bad thing. We definitely need to hype ourselves up, definitely need to rev our engines and get our heart space excited and passionate about what it is that we are about to jump into and embark on and kind of create for ourselves. But why I say it is over exaggerated and overinflated is because we tend to kind of bite off more than we can chew. We tend to kind of dream too big of a dream that eventually we will get our wind knocked out of our sails, let's just say, and where it is that we kind of need a little bit of a reality check in order to come back down to earth, to set realistic goals, to set realistic dreams and visions. The moon will interact with Uranus, the Great Awakener, in a very awkward way. This is definitely the restlessness, the anticipation, borderline anxiety that we are going to start feeling because, of course, this Uranian energy has a huge impact on our central nervous system. We start questioning where it is that we are going to be making some of these changes in our physical realm, especially where routines, relationships, money matters are concerned. Again, this is where the urgency to make some moves, to take action comes in, but we have to kind of slow our roll down and just realize that this is not the time to make those kinds of moves, not the time to initiate anything big, anything new. The moon will make a very positive interaction with Saturn, the Lord of Karma, who is fresh in this Pisces energy. This is a good vibe, a good energy, which kind of gives us a time out in order for us to align with our higher selves and remind ourselves of the dream, of the vision, of the goal that we are hyping ourselves up to actually pursue. Now, that Saturn energy does kind of bring us down a couple of pegs. We aren't moving into a negative narrative here. It's just that we're being a little bit more realistic with refining the dreams, the visions, the goals that, of course, we're all hyped up in order to pursue. The moon goes ahead, interacts with the true node, our soul path, our destiny point, in a very awkward way, which does suggest that we're questioning the actions, the moves that we want to make, that we are trying to restrain ourselves from making at this point, because we know that it's not going to be successful if we try to initiate it under this particular energy. However, we are kind of in an experimentation mode, in explorer mode, in our emotions, in our mental plane, kind of looking at the options that we have, the variables that we could experience with those options, and of course, exploring all the different outcomes in our mind space. The moon does go ahead and square off, enter into the boxing ring with Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, and expression, who is not feeling his best self because he is in Pisces energy. The moon is essentially our heart space. Mercury is essentially our head space. And to get into a boxing ring and fight it out would suggest that our heart and our head are not on the same page. A lot of that is because we're not thinking very clearly, with Mercury being in Pisces energy, very much giving off like Mercury retrograde vibes. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of wish-washiness, a lot of vagueness. We're really kind of all over the place, can't clearly define what it is that we're being called to pursue, let alone articulate what it is that's going on within us and trying to express that with confidence and clarity outwards. And so we're kind of getting in the boxing ring to kind of meet ourselves halfway, the middle ground, if you will. There is this intensity, this urgency, of course, coming from the moon being in Sag. We just want to blaze a path forward. We just want to take action. We want to make a move. While the Mercury energy in Pisces is just like, you know what? We need to sit back. We need to be fluid here. We need to surrender. We just need to go with the flow. We just need to trust the process, so to speak. And so it is a little bit conflicting and contradictory to each other's energies. And so we are going to really struggle between what it is that we feel like we want to do and what it is that we think we should do. The moon will make a very positive interaction with Mr. Uranus. Again, the earlier interaction was a little bit of a tension and awkwardness, if you will, kind of realizing where it is that, changes do have to be made. This harmonization is really pushing us to have a different perspective, to see things from a different light. Of course, the moon in Sag, we are seeing the greatest, grandest version, the greatest, grandest picture, the biggest horizon possible. The Uranian energy, although very big in its view as well, because it is kind of visionary, it is rooted and grounded out in Taurus energy. So there is some kind of balancing act that we're able to achieve here. But this is like clarity. This is a breakthrough. This is an aha moment. This is an epiphany, especially where the spiritual lessons, the layers that we are kind of pulling back on some of the situations and circumstances relating to our routines, relationships, and money matters, where those are kind of being illuminated for us to kind of absorb why it is that we're in certain situations and circumstances that we're in, and why it is that we feel called to change and alter, transform those particular elements of our lives. Now, 7:39 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when we have Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, even our anger, who is in Gemini energy and has been since August of 2022. Squares gets into the boxing ring with Neptune, who is in his place of power in Pisces energy. So we have a lot to unpack here. Neptune, of course, rules over our dreams, our creativity, our, I'm going to say, higher selves, our inspiration, our intuition. Okay. So let's just start off by saying that our energy levels get muted. Okay. Our energy levels are not up. They're not primed at all. Our inspiration levels kind of get muted as well. There's a lot of confusion with Neptune in Pisces. Everything is very vague. Now, to backtrack a little bit, Mars first squared off with Neptune back in October of 2022, and then kind of did it again in November, but Mars was retrograde at that time. So the motivation levels, the energy levels, the creativity, the inspiration that we want to have, they're not there. And we feel so overwhelmed because they're not there. And we're overwhelmed with the ideas, with the thoughts, with the possibilities of what it is that we could do, what we think we should do, that it is creating a lot of doubt, a lot of fears, a lot of insecurities, a lot of uncertainties about what the direction is. Like, where are we supposed to put our energy? What are we supposed to be doing right now? And the worst part about it is somebody would say, okay, well, you should follow your heart. Well, our hearts are confused right now. Okay, well, identify what you're excited about. Well, excitement levels are low and muted right now, so that's hard to discern. Okay, well, what are you passionate about? Well, I don't know. I'm really not passionate about much right now. I'm confused. Okay, well, what is it that you actually want? What do you desire for yourself? Well, I don't know that either because I'm too overwhelmed. I don't know what is right. I don't know what direction to take. And so we have been in this cluster F of energies since August of 2022 because Mars being in this Mercury ruled Gemini energy is really doing a number on our mental plane. It's doing a number on our energy levels. It's really kind of agitating us and frustrating us because we are constantly being torn between two different options, two different choices, two different directions. You've been hearing me talk about this for a very, very long time. And Neptune just kind of brings this like fog over us. And we're in Pisces season. Mercury's in Pisces. Saturn's now in Pisces. Neptune's been in Pisces. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of wish-washiness. There's a lot of fog. And it's very, very hard to figure out what the direction is, what we're passionate about, what we're excited about, because our given F level is, so freaking low that we don't know where to even find the Fs to care about anything. Now, just a heads up, this energy too will pass, okay? We are kind of moving into a different energy this week. What I want to say, first of all, later on this week, we will have Mars reach the 25th degree, which he went retrograde back in October. So we will be moving out of Mars's post-retrograde shadow period. that should help clear up some of the fog. That should help restore our energy levels, our passion, our excitement, our desires, our inspiration, all of that good jazz. But what I also want to say is that we have a tendency with this particular influence to be in a rush when we shouldn't be in a rush, to feel urgency where there isn't any urgency needed. And all of this can kind of lead us into really silly accidents if we're not careful. And what I also want to add here is that the sun in Pisces and Mercury in Pisces, they're also going to get involved in this little debacle, if you will, between Mars and Neptune. And, the sun shines a bright light on where it is that we want to go. And Mercury, of course, ruler of the mental plane, will be so close to the sun at that point that we're really not thinking clearly at all. There's no logic and practicality that we can grab onto if our life's dependent on it. And so things are going to get a little bit crazy, a little bit confusing as we move through the energies of this week. But you should already know that because you should have already listened to the ascension forecast for this week. So this is going to bring us a challenge in our energy, in our mental state, in aligning with our intuition and tapping into our creativity and being inspired. This is a time where we could really see a lot of challenge, trying to stay focused, trying to get organized. And of course, we're trying to wrap things up in this old calendar, in this old year. We're trying to lighten the load in order for us to move into the new year with the least amount of emotional and mental and spiritual baggage as possible. And so the urgency that we talked about here today about, wanting to take action, wanting to make moves, well, that is going to be amplified, but yet we have no direction. We have no clarity. We're low on all of the motivational levels and inspirational levels that we need in order to take action. And so there is this cluster effery of this ebb and flow, this tug of war on what it is that we should be doing. So that is a whole thing all in itself. And this particular aspect is going to remain within orb for, I would say, the remainder of the week. Now, not very long after that, we have our last quarter moon popping off 24 degrees in Sag. And that happens when the moon squares the sun. And the moon, which is our heart space, which is our past, which is our emotions, our unconscious self, in Sag energy, which is a fire sign that is just wanting to find the truth, to find a mission, to find a purpose, to find a meaning, we have this friction, this conflict, because the sun is over here shining a bright light in this Pisces energy on where we need to go with the flow and where we need to wrap things up and what it is that we need to heal and what we need to create for ourselves and what we want to align with. And so, as you can tell, we're on two very opposite sides of the spectrum. And what happens is that we tend to start looking back. We get fixated on looking back. We try to look ahead. We try to look forward. That's confusing as F. So we don't know what to do. We get stuck in this present moment of confusion. This is essentially a boiling point, a breaking point that we need because, of course, this whole week, this last week of Pisces season is about kind of reaching that breakdown point in preparation for us to have that breakthrough point when we enter into the new year. But this is definitely going to provide us with a totally different perspective on what it is that we need to let go of, what it is that we're closing the door on, and what it is that we need to align ourselves with in the pursuit of bringing these new visions, goals, and dreams to life. The moon then goes ahead and squares Neptune. So there's a lot of conflict here, and emotionally speaking, we're not feeling safe, we're not feeling secure, we're not feeling certain, we're not feeling stable, we're not feeling inspired, we're not feeling in alignment with our higher selves, we're not seeing the clarity, we're not feeling the good vibes. We tend to be overwhelmed at this particular point, just want to bury our head in the sand, escape reality altogether, disassociate, detach, and just kind of move into la la land where we can create a reality that feels a lot better than our current reality actually feels. And then the last aspect that we have here today is the moon opposing, sitting across from Mars in that Gemini energy. So the Sag energy and the Gemini energy, they are opposite sides of the spectrum in the zodiac wheel, and they represent the axis of belief. The Gemini energy forms the belief system through taking in the data, the information, the statistics from our physical realms, really kind of, push it all over in that beautiful mental plane of ours, and we create a belief or an opinion out of it. Sagittarius energy is the belief system that we hold to be true. Emotionally speaking, we are challenging our beliefs and we are feeling conflicted in our beliefs because we believe that we are on the right path, that we are taking a brand new direction, that we are really being fired up as far as excitement and inspiration and motivation goes. But then we have Mars over here that rules all over those things, that's just snuffed out, just down and low and has no energy for anything. Now we're getting frustrated. Now we're getting agitated. Now we're borderline angry that we can't see clearly, that we don't know what the path is. We don't know what the answer is. We don't know what we're doing. And at this point, we're so freaking tired of trying to figure it out. We just want to decide on something so that we don't have to think about it anymore. And if you haven't noticed, that's not a good vibe. Does not feel good. Now, that being said, it is a very, I'm going to say, triggering and activating day. It should be, because again, we have layers, we have blockages, we have triggers and activations that are needed in order for us to unpack the last of the emotional and mental suitcases that we've been carrying, so that we can kind of figure out what needs to stay, what needs to go as we enter into a brand new year.